first guest who's joining me is Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, Publishing at India Today. Raj, it was the magazine that did a cover calling General Munir the jihadi general. I'll show a picture of that cover in a moment. But explain what you mean when you say that Asim Munir is a jihadi general, and what does his elevation, according to you, mean?
Let's start with the fact that he's been elevated, and that's, I think, a big signal across that Pakistan is sending within the country and outside as well. One, of course, given the kind of fog of war that happened and the fact that India decisively made many strikes that put Pakistan on the back foot, that had to be wiped off. And by elevating General Munir to Field Marshal status, the Pakistan government there is forced to claim victory in some senses, and this is an indication of him being made Field Marshal. He was already the security czar. He had gone much beyond his purview in terms of the fact that he not only got himself an extension for 2 years pretty easily. I mean, the first time, even before his tenure was to finish this November, he got that extension. He can go up for another 5 years. He's also controlled the levers of the economic side and apart from the army. So he's probably one of the most powerful field marshals that you have, reminiscent of Ayub Khan. He hasn't taken over power formally. He doesn't think he needs to because he's supreme. And what this particular, Operation Sindoor and the 6th Indo-Pak War has done is the fact that what it's done is it has, in many senses, changed the way, the India-Pakistan matrix is working. And if you look at the fact, take a look at from the Pakistan side, what has General Munir done? He's got into a war with India. In that, he makes sure that the country is dependent on him now. Pakistan is completely dependent on him. Second, if you take a look at the fact that he internationalizes Kashmir in some senses in the way both Donald Trump, US President, talks about it, and Marco Rubio in terms of having talks on this one. And the third thing was that though he had emerged as one of the most powerful generals or army chiefs that they had, there was a popular discontent against General Asim Munir because of the fact of the economy not working well and that Imran Khan was extremely popular. By this particular war that has happened he is virtually become the defender of the country and his popularity is probably risen. But I will give you a caveat, Rajdeep. The fact was that we did, as you had mentioned, there was Ayub Khan after the 1965 war with India, which he wanted to decisively win, but Lal Bahadur Shastri, with his tremendous sort of force that he brought in terms of pushing into Pakistan and surprised the general at that time, made sure that the war had to end, not on a scale, but certainly not in the way that Ayub Khan, and within 2 years of that, he has to go. So despite the fact that he now emerges as one of the most powerful individual in Pakistan, there is a warning. He has overreached himself in dealing with India, and I think sooner or later, you will see that decline happening.
At the moment, though, that decline hasn't happened. At the moment, though, he hasn't become an Ayub Khan and actually taken over his country. So he's actually projecting the civilian leadership of Shahbaz Sharif, but running the show from the back. Geeta Mohan, how is India viewing this at the moment? General Asim Munir taking over. In the past, we've seen India making it very clear that dealing with the civilian leadership is no longer of any point in Pakistan because it's the military that calls the shots. But you're not going to deal with a General Asim Munir, particularly not after what's happened in the last few weeks. How is India, the MEA, seeing the rise of Asim Munir now as the Field Marshal of Pakistan?
Well, India, Rajdeep, has been very closely monitoring the developments in Pakistan, and yes, post-Pahalgam terror attack, there has been a sense of how the Pakistani military establishment, and like Raj Chengappa was just saying, General Asim Munir has been trying to consolidate power, and he has managed to do that. But India's position has been very clear. In the past, it had been that they're only going to deal with the civilian dispensation and not the military, even though India is very well aware of the fact, Rajdeep, that it is the military that controls Pakistan. Having said that, now they have shifted and they have upped the ante. They're saying that they're not just not going to engage the military, they're not even going to engage the civilian dispensation. That any conversation that has to take place between India and Pakistan, it is going to be at the DGMO level. But this This information and this news just ahead of all party delegations going to various world capitals works to India's benefit, because this is also something and is going to be part of the kit, the foreign policy kit that every delegation member is going to go with. See what's happening in Pakistan. Look what the general is doing. Is it for his personal interest? Is it for self-gain? And that certainly is going to be part of the conversation when the all-party delegations go to various world capitals as well.
You know, that's interesting, because Raj, you know, Pakistan is claiming victory. You've had victory rallies taking place by Shahbaz Sharif, by various other groupings associated with the ruling party. And maybe the only reason I was given by a Pakistan analyst is that they believe they've stood up to India. And General Munir, therefore, has had his stature rise within the army at a time when it looked like he was in trouble. So do you expect the next step for the general to do perhaps what Ayub did, which is try and take over? Because if he doesn't take over sooner or later, he will find himself in trouble on the back foot. Is this a general who you believe wants to take over, or is he happy running, pulling the strings from behind?
Look, he could have taken over any time in the last couple of months. He had become so powerful. But I think it suits him at the moment because the economic front is not happy at all. And he'd like the civilian government to take the blame for whatever the economic woes are there. They're, you know, barring the fact that they are the IMF loan that has come at the right time for them. Pakistan is a basket case when it comes to the economy, and you know, inflation will again rear its head, and all the problems that economic problems that Pakistan has had will sort of rear its head again. So he would like that blame to go to them. And look, he's established his position because the moment India did the kind of strikes it did, automatically he becomes the most powerful, because then the army comes back as the guardian of Pakistan, which is what they always wanted to. If you recall, just take a look at this man, Rajdeep. He comes, he's sacked as ISI chief, right? He comes to power when the army is at its nadir. He is challenged by his own co-commanders, where there is a revolt almost happening on the streets of, unheard of in Pakistan, where the Lahore co-commander's house is attacked. And then he consolidates his position, sacks all those other generals that are against him, makes himself, supreme when it comes to the army, then begins to take over the civilian side of the entire dispensation, right? There is a weak coalition government is there, highly dependent on him for their existence, moves into the economic front as well by having a special financial cell that has a lot of the army brass sitting in it, and therefore has all the levers of power that he wants. He is far more than just a security czar. He is now virtually the czar of Pakistan in some senses, barring the designation of being, as General Musharraf was, president or CEO or whatever they'd like to call themselves at that time.
Final question, Geeta, where does this leave Shahbaz Sharif? We've so far, whatever limited interaction India's had has been in the last 10 years with the Sharif family. Nawaz Sharif came here for Narendra Modi's swearing in. Mr. Modi went in 2015 December to Pakistan. Where does all of this, the rise of Asim Munir, leave Shahbaz Sharif? Or is Shahbaz Sharif, as some are suggesting, someone who's already cut a deal with the army, so he's not an Imran Khan?
Well, it's a very interesting question, but yes, the Sharif brothers, Rajdeep, are very different. Mia Saab, that's Nawaz Sharif, is very different from Shahbaz Sharif. Remember, Shahbaz Sharif has been or was Chief Minister of the Punjab for the longest. And he stayed in power despite and in spite of what happened with Nawaz Sharif. So he knows how to deal with the army, how to deal with the terrorists who thrive in Lahore, and he's been cutting deals with them on both sides. If you look at the conversations, if you look at the statements, if you look at how Shahbaz has treated the army and how he's propped up the army, it does seem like they have cut a deal. It's more important for this dispensation right now to stay in power, to remain in power, to remain protected rather than to get into trouble, because they've seen what the army had done to Nawaz Sharif in the past, and certainly what the army has done to Imran Khan, which is just about the worst that any political leader has faced in Pakistan.